Good?
Yep.
And then you can make the whole thing bigger. You know that, right? You can do it full screen. Go to the three dots at the bottom, go over there more up. No, not yet. That one. And then full screen. And you get rid of all the other stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I will call this regular meeting of the Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:02. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States, to the republic,
which stands
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, liberty, and
justice for all.
justice for all. Thank you. Unmute everybody. Okay, so just quickly, we have 4 of us here, and we do, so that means we have a quorum. There are 2 others who are supposed to be joining us, so they may come in at some point. But here we have Public Site and Building Commission members. I'm Nancy Ryan, Chair, Tom Cardillo, Dave Resendez, Jeff McClemba. Kathy Galbus, our regular recording secretary, is climbing mountains again. So Casey Galbus is filling in. And then up on screen, we have Jen Variel from Board of Ed, Rick Davido, STV. Both will give us some updates on the HVAC, high school HVAC project. And then we've been assigned some new stuff, so we'll get a little bit about that from Eric Swenson and Jonathan Matz in a few minutes. So I am going to start by making a motion to add something to our agenda, since the new projects were not assigned by the time the agenda was posted. So I'm going to make a motion that we add to our agenda in new business, which there's no real heading for new business. It would be after the approval of the meeting minutes, an introduction and discussion of two new projects assigned to the Public Site and Building Commission by the Board of Selectmen. Give you all that later if you need it, or you can do the recording. So I need a second on that.
A second.
So Dave seconds, and we're just putting it on the agenda. We'll discuss it more when we get to it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's good. So I don't think we have public input because we don't have much in the way of public, unless everybody from the carnival wants to come in and join us. And your mom didn't leave any correspondence or anything yet. So everything that was sent out to everybody is all the correspondence we have. Election of officers, I'm going to keep that on the agenda until we actually get it done. We need to consider that more. I don't really want to do it with just the 4 of us here. And we might even talk a little bit more about it at our special meeting in 2 weeks when everybody's together. And then approval of meeting minutes. So I will make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes of April 23, 2025.
Second.
Got some seconds. Dave or Tom, whichever. Anything we need to look at, discuss, update, whatever in the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're good. And I actually have a couple of meetings ago minutes thing I need to update, but I'll do it under the locker room, and I'll do it there. So as we did do that motion of adding to the agenda the 2 projects assigned to us by the Board of Selectmen, 2 new projects, things that they've been working through Public Works Department. And so let's see. So there are 2 that were assigned. They were assigned separately, so they're not like 2 as part of one project. So it's rebuilding the animal shelter, and the highway garage roof needs to be repaired. Replaced, actually, not just the roof. I think there's more to it than that. So we have Eric Swenson from Public Works and Jonathan Matz. So who wants to start with telling us?
I'll just start. We didn't have anything prepared for this. I know we weren't on the agenda, so we were just planning to just kind of introduce ourselves and just kind of broach the topic. There will be a lot more, and we'd like to definitely go over it with you guys in person and give you all the background. Just for way of introduction, I'm Eric Swenson. I'm the Public Works Director for the town. I know Nancy, we've worked together, and Kathy works in our department. And this here is John Matz. He's a project manager in the Public Works Department. So just real briefly, well, first of all, thank you for letting us jump in on the meeting without being on the agenda. And also thank you in advance for, taking on these projects. We have, I mean, this is the kind of thing we do in my department, but we just have so many things going on. We don't have the bandwidth in the staff. So it's very helpful that you guys are going to be able to help us with this. And we will definitely give you as much background information, and we definitely want to stay involved so that none of this knowledge that we already have is lost as you go through this. Just real quickly, I'm assuming all of you are familiar with the existing animal shelter. I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's kind of, it's close to, I think it's Simpog Brook. It's kind of partially built on a swamp. It's kind of part of the garage is kind of slowly sliding into the swamp. There's a giant crack in the middle of it. So it's not necessarily condemnable at this point, but we've had people check it out, and they basically have told us it's better to start and build a new building from scratch. So, and we're getting cited by state agencies about it. So anyway, this has been on there for a while. And again, this is just a high level overview. We'd like to sit down with you guys and show you what we've done. John and Kathy, who you know, have done a lot of research with Stephen Shanley, who's the animal control officer for Bethel PD. Not sure if you guys know him or not, but they even did visits to the new Danbury Animal Shelter, some of you may be aware of. Dawes, which is across the street, also has a new facility, and Newtown has a fairly new facility. So they've done a lot of research. John has even prepared some kind of conceptual plans, not necessarily constructible, architectural plans, but the conceptual, pretty detailed. And so we think that this should go out to, we should get an architect to design it and eventually go out to bid. And we'll go through that. We'll tell you what we've done and what we think the next steps should be. So that's the animal shelter. The highway garage roof, which we kind of refer to it as such, but it's really, it's also a structural. There's the columns and trusses that hold up this building. I don't know how familiar you are with the highway garage. If you've ever driven to the transfer station, you pass it. It's a prefab building from the 60s, John, I think. It's not sure, I forget the name, Borghese. Do I have that right? Anyway, it's a prefab building, custom components. And anyway, that kind of has a longer story where it was identified long before I got here. I started working for the town about almost 5 years ago. So around 2020, late 2020, 2021. The prior public works director had kind of started doing some design. They got kind of far actually, but unfortunately all that work kind of got lost. But anyway, we'll get into the whole history of it. But essentially there's three components of that. It's not just the roof. The roof is one. The columns and trusses, the structural steel columns and trusses is the second part. And then the third part is we want to add a sprinkler system. And the reason for the sprinkler system is really as kind of an insurance policy, because there's there's a lot of expensive trucks and equipment in there that if anything were to happen, God forbid, we'd want to have some kind of safeguard. So it's really those three things: the structural, the roof, and the sprinkler system. And so that's it in a nutshell. Obviously, there's ins and outs, and we're going to prepare like a little presentation and give you all the documents to review and stuff that we've already gotten. We've gotten proposals, and there's been work done in the past, like I mentioned, and we'll give you a list of what we think the next step should be. So I think that's it in a nutshell. So thank you again. If you have any questions right now, we can answer that, but if not.
So I think that, one way we can approach this is, commission had been contacted by Dan Carter asking us if we wanted to do a sort of a tour, so to speak, or a look around at different towns.
Yes.
So we're doing that. We have a special meeting set up 2 weeks, May 28th. And I'm sure these will be definitely on our list. So I'm not sure if there's, maybe you join in with us and show us some things, or whether there's stuff you want to send out to us in advance to review before we go on our little tour. And 'cause
I will be on the tour.
I had started making a list of buildings I thought we should look at. And now these get added in because I didn't even know these weren't even on my radar, because I didn't know they were in the works as far as being assigned to us. So we're going to need to obviously have a whole lot more information, and I think taking a look at them as we do our tour would be helpful too. And we're also going to need to look at, so I'm looking ahead even to next regular meetings, et cetera. We already have 2 items on our agenda. We're going to add 2 more. It's going to kind of create a longer meeting. So we're going to need to look at, and for Rick and Jen, look at, like tonight, we have 4 invoices to do for HVAC, plus we need to get in updates and budget updates, et cetera, schedule updates. So I'm going to suggest we work through this in a way where we have 2 meetings a month. One meeting focuses on, 1 or 2. We make sure, like the first meeting of the month, we always get the HVAC. We have 4 main vendors. We always get those invoices for the first meeting of the month. Anything else, we focus on that. The next, the last meeting of the month might not be so much of the HVAC, but might focus more on some of the other projects so that we're not here. Some of us have experienced meetings until 11 o'clock at night when we had a lot of things on our agenda, and kind of don't really want to be doing that. So if we can organize it in that way, and then have certain people be more focused on certain projects and keep up with them, et cetera, make sure we have the right people in place to do all the things that need to be done, so that what's brought to us, we get it ahead of time, we review it, we can take a little time at a meeting to review it, and if we have to make changes or approvals or whatever, we do that. That makes
Sure,
sense.
that's fine with me. We'll definitely be at the walkthrough, the site visit on the 28th. I don't think there's really anything we need to share with you before then.
Okay.
I'll double check, but I don't think so. I think it'd be actually good to start with the site visits, to see what the existing conditions we're dealing with are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions now?
Just real
or-
quick, the 28th, that's the 5 o'clock.
Yes.
I just I'm not confirmed on that yet, but
Okay.
I'll try to make.
Okay. And if you can't be there right at 5,
I can always meet up with you.
yeah, like
one of the buildings.
make sure one of us has your cell so we can text
Yeah,
you
yeah,
and
yeah,
say,
okay.
we're heading up, we're going to start here, we're going to head over there.
Yeah.
And let you
That's
know where
great,
we are.
yeah.
Because the other thing we have to do too is that since we're doing that at 5, are we going to have a regular meeting at 7? Do we need to? So we'll have to get some input from everybody. Do we need to meet at 7 o'clock, or should we just keep going on our tour to get as much stuff done on the tour as we can?
Yeah. I mean, I would argue for the tour,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's obviously we
Right.
don't set
Right.
right now.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll be time constrained if we're going to at least 3 or 4 buildings.
Yeah, well, I think we might need to go to a few more.
Right.
So we can talk about that a little later, but yeah, definitely, if you guys are going to join us on the 28th, we will, as I think we're meeting conference starting here, and then I think we'll just have to have a list of where we're going after that and what's important for us to see.
Okay, we'll be there for those too, for sure.
Great, thanks. Thanks for jumping in and giving us a little bit of a start on this, and we'll just.
So just the process. So that would be coming to us with the plans that eventually goes up for funding, right? I mean,
Well-
is this been approved already? Like the dog,
No.
okay, I'm sure. Okay.
So we're gonna need to, they've got some concept drawings,
Yeah,
but we need to get construction drawings for both the shelter
Yeah.
and possibly the garage. If the
Yeah.
garage doesn't have a structural plan, we need to have that too. So we'll need to go out and get that. And then from there, we'll need to get a budget together. And we'll have to look at the budget.
Yeah,
If it's over $1 million, it's got to go to referendum. If it's under, you go to a special town meeting.
Yeah.
yeah.
So still have to get some.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll have to go to the
yeah.
Board of Selectmen and then the Board of Finance and
Yeah.
all that to get funding approved.
I'm sorry, Nancy, my phone is about to die, but, yeah, with the animal shelter, it's a little more simple. With the highway garage, historically, there was kind of starts and stops. So we have a few older estimates and we have some newer. Where we're at right now is we have a quote from a structural engineer, a quote from an architect, and a quote from a sprinkler designer. And it was at that point that in discussing with Dan, we thought it would be best to request it be passed on to you guys. So anyway, we'll explain all that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thanks again.
Yep. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Jonathan.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, so now we move on to our old business, which is starting with high school HVAC. Rick and Jen, thanks for persevering through that. It wasn't too bad. But you heard that the Public Site and Building Commission now have 2 more projects on our agenda. And we're gonna have to figure out how we kind of go through and deal with all that for meetings because like I said, it would be great to have, one meeting a month where you guys are at the top of the agenda and one where maybe we don't have so much to do and maybe just check in. So we saw emails. We know we have a bunch of invoices, but we saw emails about the letter they're finally getting the approval from Department of Public Health and the letter going out. So is that freeing everybody up to get their work done?
Yeah, so that was good news after Dr. Carver and myself and some others kind of contacting the state at various times. It was a little painful, but we finally got the approval last week. The letter went out, I think, over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and actually they did start work last night. So they were able to get mobilized and get that going last night. So they should be there as we speak, moving forward.
Great. So is that kind of keeping the schedule intact or is it making any changes with the schedule?
Well, as far as the day-to-day of the schedule, I've asked Save More to provide us with a new overall schedule for the entire project, as well as a 2-week look ahead for the project, so that the school knows exactly what's going on. So 2-week look ahead to be distributed every week, change it every week, but 2 weeks from every Friday. So that, things change. They may, gain a room here or there, or they may, have an issue with a room and it may lag one, so it's going to be kind of an average. But what we did is we provided the school and the Board of Ed with a logistics plan. So basically it gives us a sequencing of what rooms and what path we're going to follow. So, if it's 1 or 2 rooms here or there, it shouldn't be a big deal whether we move ahead we're ahead of the game, move ahead 1 or 2 rooms. We have a meeting with the entire team and we'll just make that communication available with Tyler and Jen and the principal and Dr. Carver, so everybody knows what's going on.
So,
But right now the schedule, and the short answer to your schedule, the question is, yeah, we should be on schedule for the same completion date. But it's just a matter of how we're getting there, which, determined because the abatement's starting a few weeks late, where they feel like they can put extra men on it and still meet the schedule.
okay. Now is Save More, have you worked it out with them about getting them to come to your OAC meetings?
Yep, we moved it back an hour, so that conflict doesn't any longer exist. So they've been on time past 2 meetings
Okay,
since we made the change. So
good. And are we thinking that when school's out, they're going to have more time to be doing what they need to do? Or is that really not factored into
No, it is factored into their schedule, and they're going to go, naturally they can go on first shift. So I believe I think it's the last day of school, the 13th, I recall.
Yeah.
So I did confirm that at our last meeting yesterday, and make sure that didn't change. And so on the following day or Monday, whatever it might be, Save More can start first shift and get going with everything without being inhibited by if there's summer summer classes or activities, we'll have to be mindful of that.
Mhm.
But we'll be going all out in the summer.
And
And also, we have redirected the majority of the summer activities at the high school to other buildings to make sure that the Save More team has access to what they need.
Can I just ask a question? Just because I think I may have misunderstood. So you're talking about the overall completion date hasn't changed, not the completion of just the abatement, correct?
Correct.
It would take 22. All right, that's all.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Pick up time at a time when the abatement. Sorry.
he kind of said that.
Yeah, no, I think I
Yeah.
misread. That's all.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. But it's just that's why I'm asking for a new overall schedule, just so we know how they're going to meet the end date. But naturally, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks for the approval, and that kind of pushed us way back. So
Yeah.
But at this point, they're not saying that I'd asked bluntly whether that would impact the schedule, and they said they didn't feel it would at this time. So that's where we stand.
And Save More, you're going to keep on them about, regularly checking in with you and with Tyler about knowing where they're going to be in the building. Because as Jen said, yes, you've made arrangements to have a lot of the activities out of the building for the summer, but that doesn't mean they can go wherever they want. They still need to check in and make sure that the area where they're going, especially if they're working on abatement, that the area is free and they don't have to worry about people coming in and out.
Exactly. And the way the schedule for the abatement is, I believe, as luck would have it, the abatement should be done before school is ended, right? So it's all about timing. But then at that point, then they're going to have the pathways open. They're going to be able to run their conduit pipe, through the walls and in the ceilings. So there's going to be more areas and more vendors in at that time than we've had the past number of weeks. So they'll be, they'll be on the roof. So a lot of it will be on the 3rd floor and on the roof. So it'll be a lot more contractors in, and we'll be taking up more space. So we will be mindful of that.
And they'll be working regular hours. So, because I know summertime, usually the buildings go on a 7 to 2:30 shift. And
Yeah, in fact, we mentioned that yesterday. So Save More indicated that there was that typically go 6 to 2:30, and I know that was Dave Valancourt was well in favor of that. So we did discuss the operation hours for the summertime.
good. You don't have a budget update for us, do you?
Actually, the budget to date hasn't changed. We're still looking at the remaining balance, after the other bills at 102,959 for contingency.
Okay.
So that's what we're, it hasn't changed. We do have these invoices to approve, but those are all invoices that were accounted for,
Okay.
On our normal billing.
And so, and you had mentioned last meeting and the meeting before how there were some RFIs that were needing to be looked at, et cetera, and that hasn't created any issues where they're saying something's out of scope and there's going to be a change order or anything like that.
Correct. And in yesterday's meeting, I did double check on that, and there have been, changes, and we have to reroute some things, and nothing glaring. The sheet metal ductwork contractor still has some of the drawings he's reviewing. The only thing, and it's would be a minor change order, if anything, would be just we're rerunning some ductwork to get over that beam. There's a beam that's blocking our way, so we're going to be using openings where we're getting rid of some fans and running some ductwork on the roof. So we may just have to rewrap some of that ductwork, but nothing glaring that's going to be of any large consequence. And there is $15,000 of an allowance fee in their contract. I do, it's not a catch-all, if you will. So I just do want to know how they're spending the money if they use that. But that's the first 15,000 wouldn't impact the budget at all.
Okay, and they'll keep you posted on that. They're like they
Correct.
kind of let you know they can't just go and
Exactly. Yeah.
spend it.
And I am after them to make sure that, if there's budget changes to let us know, because we have got to get it approved before they can move forward. So.
Right. Because we won't get reimbursement.
I have a question. I think you're addressing, I saw that in the email, going up on the roof for taking the fans out and redirecting the duct. Does that have to be approved by architects, engineers, or anybody?
Well, all the RFIs go to Kohler Ronan, and Kohler Ronan did approve that.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, all the RFIs go to Kohler Ronan, and we did go have coordination drawings, and that was part of the coordination drawing and submission back to Save More, and that's how they're working through that. So everybody's on board. We're not making any changes that they're just making on the fly. As far as sequencing, sometimes when they have to get up through a space, they might have to flatten a duct out, but still use the same volume to get through. So instead of, being 12 by 12, it might be 14 by 16, or 14 by 18 or something like that. So as long as they can keep the same airflow, they can do that to fit the space. So we don't have to move any other pipes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Else, anybody? I just thought of something. Are there large pieces of equipment that are going to be delivered, needing cranes to pick them into place, etc.?
Yes, I mean there'll be some rooftop units, and as soon as we get the delivery dates on those, we'll work through that with Dave Bellancourt and Tyler.
Okay, yeah, because they'll definitely want to know when large stuff's coming through the whole area. If they have to bring a big one in early in the morning, but definitely when it's going to be on site and how that'll affect whatever else might be going on.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pre-schedule that. It won't just arrive and figure it out.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be till later June or July, right?
Yeah, probably sometime in June, beginning of July. I think he
Yeah.
has it on his schedule. Yep.
Okay. Good. Anything else anybody have? Anything else you need to let us know? Or Jen, is there anything you need to let us know?
I just wanted to report that we're hearing really positive feedback about how the abatement work is going at the high school. They've just started, so it's at the beginning, but the team is being, doing a very good job of communicating where they're going to be and doing what they're saying they're going to do, and doing a good job of cleaning up after themselves. So we're really happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's good. I did check in with Jason from Save More this morning, after the first night, just to make sure that everything went off as planned. And he said that, as far as he knew, everything was good, and I didn't hear anything from the school. So I knew that, there were no complaints. And I think both Tyler and Dave Bellancourt mentioned that they've been cleaning up after themselves very well. So that's good news. Again, there are going to be a lot more contractors and things happening as we move forward. So we will keep monitoring that moving forward.
Good. That's good to hear. Because you always want to try to make sure that they're not wandering all over the place and being where they're not supposed to be. And that happens sometimes. So.
Yeah. And I also made sure that they're going to be using a sign-in sheet for the contractors coming in, just so we know who's in the building at any point, at any given point in time. So they're going to be implementing that this week.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so we can do invoices. Yeah. Let me see if I can get that up there. We'll get some invoices up here. Okay. I'll put them up by, except they were out ahead of time, so you had a chance to look at them. So the first one is SES, our commissioning agent. Now I think this is our first invoice from them. So I will make a motion that we approve SES invoice number 5093. Date. Right, no, so April 29th, 2025 for the month of April. Service ending April 30th, 2025 in the amount of $2,136. Is that you?
Yep.
Dave Resendez seconds. Any questions or anything about this? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're good. Now let me get the next one. And probably a faster way to do this, but I don't know what it is.
Sorry.
So this is STV. I know you can't see the whole thing and I don't know how to make it move on my thing so you can see it, but everybody got it ahead of time. I will make a motion that we approve invoice, STV invoice number 90034-161 dated April 25, 2025 for the month of March.
Second.
And I didn't do the amount yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I did.
I forgot. In the amount of $5,915.
Second.
David seconds. So I actually have two questions on this, Rick. One is the question that I've asked before is that as we're, I don't know, are we halfway through? We're way more than halfway through this, your contract amount. Is this going to be adequate to get us through to the end? Because it better be.
Yeah, I've got to check with Mark, see what his projections are for that. But that's our goal is to, make it to the end, right?
Right.
At zero.
Yep. So, and then the other thing I want to ask is there was an original contract amount, which I didn't run and find. It's the 90 something thousand, but now there's two lines that say direct labor costs and other direct costs. And in other direct costs, we were, I think, already billed $78.40. Are those other direct costs like mileage or something like that?
Exactly. Yeah, that would be predominantly just mileage. It's expenses, but really the only expenses would be mileage.
Okay, because I'm not remembering that being separated out in previous invoices, so maybe it just wasn't. So, okay,
All right.
so find that out for us for our next
Yep.
meeting. Hopefully. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. Next one. Ooh, I got it to change without having to. Yay. Oh yeah, you can see the bottom there. Good. Yay. Right. I'm learning. It's taking a long time, but I will make a motion that we approve Save More application for payment number 4. I think this requisition number 4 is invoice number 17525 dated April 20th, 2025 in the amount of $87,699.
Second.
Tom seconds. Any questions on this? There were a couple of things attached, and I guess they're not just the all the figures and everything, but there's a thing from between you and Jason Harvey.
Yeah, so the schedule
Something-
of values was attached, and then there was
Okay.
just something I believe for the piping. I don't
Yeah,
have it in front of me, but I just wanted to verify that I think there's of this $34,000 that is in piping. So there
Yeah.
was bill of lading for proof of that, and I did actually speak with Tyler to make sure that, you know, he has seen that on site and the piping is on site.
Okay, good. Any other questions about this invoice? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. And then the last one is Fuller Running. Yay. So I'll make a motion that we approve Coloradoan invoice number 22021.02.01-5 dated April 30th, 2025 for services rendered for the month of April in the amount of $3,662.50.
Second.
Tom seconds, and again, this is just, doesn't have any backup because it's just equal amounts for their whole contract amount. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. So that's it for invoices. I can stop sharing. And there we all are again. So does anybody have anything else that they need to either ask about, or you have anything you need to tell us about on the HVAC?
Just one thing that we didn't touch on. You see that SES does have an invoice here. Commissioning is typically at the end, but they're doing their reviews of RFIs and things along those lines, as well as you know, we had a meeting with Save More and Coloradoan and myself just to make sure that they set all expectations on what the commissioning agents need, just so there's you know, no surprises at the end. So they're doing their due diligence on that. Just what everybody should know.
Okay, good. So, and as I said, we're gonna have to do some sort of planning ahead in a way so that we don't do all major stuff for all 4 projects at every meeting, so that we can kind of space it out enough so we're not here forever for each meeting. And it worked out well this time to have all 4 of those. I don't think we have any other big vendors for this project. It's just the 4, right?
Correct.
And those
Yeah, so
invo-
I'm gonna try to get all those the first meeting of the month.
Yeah, that would be great. And then anything else we might need to consider, and, you know, if we do have change orders or anything like that. And then, you know, other major stuff can happen at the last meeting of the month. So.
Right.
All right. Well, good with anybody. Anything else? No? Good. Thank you. We'll see you next time or wherever, whenever. So Rick, actually, before you go, let me think.
Yep.
So you heard us talking about going on a tour of buildings in town, the commission.
Correct.
And everyone's trying to be there and make it so they can see what's going on. So we've just been assigned 2 new projects. There are other projects that could be in the works down the road. Want to see part of our job, so to speak, as per the charter, is to advise. Well, all of it is to advise the Board of Selectmen. And we generally don't say, this building over here needs to be worked on. You know, what are we going to do about it? We wait for someone. Usually it's the department that's part of that building. So Board of Ed has come to us with school projects. Park and Rec has come with projects, etc. Library, when we finish the library. So I think part of this tour is looking at these buildings and maybe starting to come up with a plan of, is there work needing to be done on other buildings? We can't have 10 things on our agenda. We can't be working on 10 things at once. So how do we then work all those out and get projects like this? This is kind of nice where we just have these 2 right now, but going to get a little busier. So we're going to try to figure that out as far as, you know, what's important to happen at each meeting, and making sure the right people are there and making sure that we get the right information. Okay.
So we'll, at that walkthrough, will you be visiting the high school?
So I think we would like to.
I think so, but I haven't seen the
Yeah.
agenda,
Yeah.
so.
So we don't have Kathy put out an agenda, but I don't think she had there's no list of all the buildings.
Yeah.
So I think because some of us have asked, and it would be probably after hours as the workers, well, they'll be still doing after hour shifts like
Yeah, they'll still be second shift. Yeah, but they'll be doing some abatement at that point still, but there's plenty of other sections of the building that we can take a look at.
Yeah, and we can make sure that, I don't know if you want to try to come, or we just make sure we work it out with like Tyler to make sure we can get in, take a look at it, et cetera.
Yep.
But-
And I'll talk to Jason. He may want to be there just to, answer any questions, things like
Right.
that too. So I think that would
Okay.
be prudent. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yep.
let me know. Yeah, so I'll plan on that, but see when you think you might be at those buildings, and we can kind of plan
Right.
a time. All right.
We're gonna start here at 5 o'clock and then don't have a plan yet for where we're gonna go first and what sequence we'll follow. So if we get something like that together, we'll let you know. Otherwise, so I can just send you the agenda as it exists and know that we'll be at the high school at some point. Maybe we go there first, or we'll probably do this
Okay.
building first and then leave from here. Great, thanks.
That works. Thanks.
See ya. All right, so next is the municipal center locker room. Welcome, Roger.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can we go back to that for a second? So
Yes.
if the abatement work is happening, then are you asking if you could go into the areas that are being abated?
Probably not
Yeah.
want to do that. We can't because they'll have it sealed off. But if there's another area where,
Okay, so we'll just do a general tour of areas where there isn't any work happening. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
No, I don't
I don't
want
want to go in any rooms.
Nobody-
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. We won't. All right. Okay,
So
yes,
technically that's open to the public though, right? Because it's a special
Yeah.
meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
so even special meetings are open to the public. And the public could show up. Generally, they don't, but if someone's watching agendas, and we actually had this happen when we were first completing the police station, not the training range, but this police station. And we scheduled a special meeting so we could go there and see what was done. Because we hadn't, we would
Yeah.
go regularly to see what was going on separately, not a meeting, just couple of us would go periodically. And this was for the whole commission, so we had to post a notice, and a News Times reporter showed up, so we had to take them with us. which
Yeah,
was
so anybody
fine.
can, right? And then Kathy put together an agenda of the buildings and stuff.
Well,
anyway.
If it's a special meeting, you can only do what's on the agenda.
Okay.
So if we want to be a little bit open on where we're gonna go, then it might just be, did you get the agenda? I don't know if I can find
For
it.
which one?
She already posted the one for the 25th, which I can go and find.
28, right?
28, yes. Fine. And I didn't really look at it. I think she just
The
went.
animal shelter and the public works
It
building
doesn't
roof?
say, all it says is sidewalk of various
Yeah.
buildings.
Okay, you got it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
So if we keep it open like that, we're probably better off so we can be
open.
flex about where we go and when and how and all that. Because once you start getting specific, you can, if we put 4 buildings, because we really want to cover those 4, and then as we're doing the 4, we say, we should probably look at this one. We can't. So, yeah,
Yeah, especially if you're at one, maybe it's close to,
Can you just put a line item that says other buildings?
we can. So I'll have to
Sites
check.
as needed.
Well, basically what I'm getting at is it may be helpful to the commission to have an itinerary so
Yeah.
we can time it out and figure out.
Right.
Maybe that's what
whether-
Rick was at. I think he wants to know
Like
what time
when,
we're gonna be there so that
There's-
he can
there's
Yeah.
have.
gotta be-
we may
Jason
need to
something.
let whoever's going to be at the high school to let them know too. So I'll check with Dan, because he's the one that brought it up, what his thoughts were. He's away now, so I'll have to email him and see what I hear back next week so we can plan something out.
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I don't know if it was too premature, but I don't know if the animal shelters going back in the same place or fully knocked down or,
Hopefully, we're going to get more information
Yeah,
from
yeah,
that.
because I was gonna say. it
Yeah,
may not be-
I had questions like that. I'm like, I'll wait
Right.
till they obviously have information.
Basically, I was getting at is may not be necessary to go visit that building. It's just getting torn down and moving.
Yeah, it probably isn't anyway, just because if the building's not,
So if there's a time constraint, I might
yeah. Skip that one.
say
yeah.
skip that one.
But we might want to look at what they're
Yeah.
dealing with so that.
And if
we
we're driving
know.
by it anyway, yeah,
Understood, yeah.
yeah, that's about.
you know, takes, I think I had to time it once just because someone was complaining about where their polling location was. And I drove from one end of town to the other, like 3 minutes. So,
Well, Bethel at 5 o'clock these days.
well, that's different.
Yeah,
Driving down Greenwood Avenue when there's an accident on I-84 is crazy too. So are there buildings that we can kind of do a little brainstorm of a,
Highway
Well,
garage
wait.
makes sense, right? If it's a big project.
yeah,
with the roof,
so.
Yeah, that's definitely. not-
I agree with the dog pound. I mean, I should,
Is
I
that
would,
building
I,
even usable?
I would argue, why do we in Meter, why don't we go with another town or something? But anyway, it's a different discussion, I guess, for the selectmen. That's not the role to present that, but
Yeah,
to your point, if they're, unless this, they want to keep it in that location, then maybe that makes sense because the well house or pump house near there, I think that's not even being used either. Maybe they could, I don't know,
Right,
do
right.
things with that piece of property.
And it is only 30 seconds from
Yeah.
there.
And this one with the locker room stuff, I mean, technically, if that's,
Yeah,
we're here anyway, right? So,
well, if we start here and we take a quick look
Yeah.
around there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in a minute or two, but definitely highway garage, municipal center, high school HVAC,
Animal shelter.
and the animal shelter, some were saying, I got that on another list, like maybe we probably
Yeah, let's get
should.
some more information.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be up to maybe Eric and,
Well, I guess, yeah, looking at it might not make sense because they're saying it needs to be knocked down.
Yeah.
Right, that's all right.
but again, maybe the location or something. Maybe if they
Or
wanna keep
even
it in the same
looking
spot,
at what's
yeah.
there, so we get it in our mind. Because they've gone around, they've made some plans already, so
Yeah,
we still might like to know what's there.
yeah,
And-
and it's,
Yeah.
you're just not getting like 5 minutes there to, you're not gonna be there
Yeah.
as,
And I'm wondering if we should take a look at the middle school, because I kind of think that's gonna be the next school.
but the other
that's
schools
tossed
are
at
fairly
us.
renovated, right? Yeah.
Yes, the little schools, the oldest, I think it's, Berry School was renovated a while back, but the middle school's been,
The police
Probably the
station's
next.
new, the shooting range is done.
Dave and I were the first class to go through all 3 grades in the middle
Oh, yeah?
school.
Well, I didn't go. You, went.
Oh,
At
okay.
our age was the
Yeah.
one, yeah, but I didn't, I went to private. So I would say,
Yeah, the middle school just opened up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
oh, South Street Fire Station and Stony Hill.
96.
Oh, that's a
was
good
the
idea.
first
Yeah, the South Street
grade
Fire
class,
Station,
like,
yeah,
30
that's
years
an older building.
Sorry, what was that? South Street?
South Street
Yeah.
and Stony Hill.
Stony Hill's fairly new, right? But yeah.
Yeah,
maybe-
Stony Hill's fairly new. Yeah.
It is fairly new, but it has an issue, so.
Okay, that's fine.
But I don't know if it's something we can ever deal with. South Street, I'll go back and I'll dig up some, in the past, that, like I said, we wouldn't go out and find projects. The department would bring, so
Yeah.
like the chief of South Street would go to a board of selectmen meeting with a list of, here are all these problems that need to be fixed. Eventually, one of the biggest things was, there's a second floor, if you've been at South Street Fire Station for anything.
Yeah.
Second floor is a big open room, kitchen, all that.
Yeah.
And it couldn't really be used, like, let's say for a shelter or whatever, because there was no access. So the town got a grant.
Now the elevator's there now.
Yeah, so the town got a grant to do the elevator. And it was like just this little, but instead there was the grant. And then the town put in, I think, matching funds to just square off the back of the building, because the building was kind of L-shaped and the elevator was just going to be this little bump. So instead of just the elevator squared off the back of the building, added a little more space. But there's a lot, that whole upstairs kitchen area, there's a lot that needs to be, they keep fixing this and fixing that. There's all kinds of things that could be done to that building to upgrade it, plus some stuff going on in the bays where there's drains and I don't know where they go. So that, a lot of that needs to get
More
looked
drains.
at, so
More drains that they
There's
don't
four
know
drains.
yet.
I'm not sure if they know where they go or what, if they know where they go, what, do they need to get redone? It's kind of like, yeah,
Is the town taking over that 4-H or Ag Center there on Route 6 too?
I don't know.
All right.
So there's been something going on with that for a while because
If it is,
I
that
don't-
might make sense if that, I don't know the details of it. I just thought I read or heard that somewhere. So I don't know
yeah, and
if that's going to be a building that town has to manage. If that building looks rather old.
well, the two buildings that are there,
Yeah.
one had a fire and they've never done anything to fix it, whoever's the owners.
Yeah.
Now, the Stony Hill Preserve LLC or whatever.
Yeah.
That's like, we're not doing anything with that right now. But I think we need to look at both the fire departments, and if we have time, you know, we could swing by the police station and look at it if people want to see.
Yeah.
What's
So
going on
Nancy,
there.
just, so the firehouses are town property.
Yes,
But the volunteer fire departments are private, aren't they?
so the,
So how does that work?
no, I don't know if the fire department is
Yeah.
actually private.
Well, because we have a fire commission, like, and those are
Yes.
all town employees.
Yes.
So
No, the
Yes,
fire commissioner, Tom.
they
yeah,
are, right?
No,
but the,
no,
Yeah,
no.
but that's a
They're not
company.
town
they don't
employees,
use
they're-
their
It's
money.
like this,
they're
it's like this
appointed.
commission.
Yeah, they're appointed,
They're
but I'm
appointed.
saying they're not employees, but they're
Right.
appointed by the
Yes.
town. They're town
but
affiliated.
the back section there where the museum is, I believe, is owned by the Bethel South Street
Yeah,
Fire,
yeah,
something,
yeah.
something, something, right? Something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I
but
can't remember the
it's
name of it.
Right, I think the
Just that
town,
little
the town, I
section.
think, owns the
The
building,
town
and they
owns the
own the
building
fire
and
trucks
the property,
and the equipment, but they,
and the property and the parking lot, but the little back building
Yeah.
where the museum is, I think, is owned
it's like a
by,
separate, yeah.
don't know what that's
Yeah.
about, but yes, the town, because the town rebuilt Stony
Mm-hmm.
Hill Firehouse back when, way back, late nineties, because we had to
Wasn't
move
that
the
long ago,
polling
no.
location.
Mid 2000s,
No,
2005,
maybe-
6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere.
No, even before that.
It's fairly, yeah, anyway, you would know.
It is
You were probably in the
but it's-
commission there.
And there's
Yeah.
some stuff that needs to be done there, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it'll fall under us, because it's more maintenance things like, I don't know, what, you know, the countertops are delaminating or something
Yeah, yeah,
that I've
seems like that's
noticed that,
maintenance.
yeah, stuff that it's, when you use something a lot,
Yeah.
it needs to get, you know, some tiles.
Yeah, no, I don't wanna
That's
sit
not
underneath
us.
that, but
That's
yeah.
not us. That's maintenance. We're the building commission, not the maintenance commission, so. So just let's do quickly with the locker room, which we'll hopefully take a look at in 2 weeks when we do that walk around. I don't have anything other than I did contact, so I found out that, I might mention this before, that the town had contracted with Colliers, which is one of the owner's representative project management groups out there that you can hire to work with you. The town contracted with them in 2021 with an agreement that if there was a town project that needed oversight from Colliers, that they would come up, here's the project. How much is it gonna cost? They come up with a cost that gets agreed on. So it's not like we're working off a retainer or anything. There's per project cost that they would come up with. So they gave us a cost to do the general purpose room lobby. And we didn't even use all the funds that they thought we needed, but they were there on a regular basis, checking. They had a project engineer, making sure things were happening the way they were supposed to be happening, solving problems, et cetera, coming to a meeting, reporting to us. Actually, I can track the budget because they only tracked their own budget. But I got in touch with them, and that's still in effect, that if we need to use them for owner's representative or project management services, we would go and say, I contacted the head guy, that's our contact. He said, sure, we can get together and talk about it. And then Dan said, yes, we should all get together and talk about it. And then I went away for 2 weeks. Now Dan's away. So we still got to work that out. But there's one more thing, and Casey, you're going to have to write this down, or I can give you the old minutes. I noticed that in our minutes from April 9th, I didn't catch this when we were approving the minutes, but I reported how we had gotten an initial from BMP, which is that's through the whole state Gordian state contract thing, that they had said that it could cost $95,000 to come up with construction documents. But in the minutes, it says build just the building analysis. So I'll tell you what it needs to say is, and you don't need to change the minutes. It's basically, let's put it in these minutes, that the initial proposal amount, and this isn't an exact amount, but it could cost upwards to $95,000 for the building analysis and then coming up with construction documents. So the plans, specs, some initial kind of concept drawings, and then coming up with actual construction documents. And we had a whole conversation about the amount, thinking it was too much. And that part of what we need to do is get more kind of from the town and maybe from Park and Rec on what are we gonna call this? What are we going to say the use of the building is in that area? Because that will drive probably a lot of how code is interpreted for that space. It's kind of just an overview. I mean, we all talked about it, you know, came up with some ideas. So,
If you
That's-
called it something, could you apply maybe for a grant or something?
well, we did apply for a grant about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. A STEEP grant. Can't remember what STEEP stands for, but it was could have been a hefty amount. And the Janice Chris Jenick, who's the economic development coordinator, has been doing a lot more of the grant stuff. And she contacted myself and Rachel and said, this has to be in a month. So we put together as much information as we could and put it in. What we found out was all the towns that were approved for grants had already approved funding. So we need to get through the design process and come up with a budget and look at, you know, how do we get some funding approved? Did they find out if these towns approved? Did they approve half and then the grant was for half, or find out a little bit more about that? Because yes, there could possibly be grants available. And it was on the wish list, so to speak, for using up the ARPA funding, but there were so many other things too that, well, we've used ARPA fund to do the GP room lobby. And that's all gone now, so.
Or if you tie it in with like a shelter, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Something.
But I think saying shelter also puts us in a position.
Yeah.
It's, this whole building is used as a shelter when needed. So sometimes it's just opening up meeting room A so people can come and get warm and charge their devices. Sometimes people need to sleep here. That's happened not recently, but quite a while ago. So opening, saying it's going to only be a shelter, we don't want to do that. We'd like to use the space as a, you know, flexible Park and Rec, et cetera. But there also might be some requirements, code-wise or other, in having a shelter. You got to have, I don't know, this many bed spaces, or, you know, right now they just set up cots in the gym, and for some people it's all they have. They're grateful. They'll take a shower. They've used those showers. Doesn't matter what they look like. They're clean. They just look like nobody's touched them in 50 some odd years. So yes, there could possibly be grants. That's why we'd like to get the plans in place, even if we just spend money on that to get that. And then we're ready. We know budget wise, what do we need? Let's, you know, here we have plans. They talk about grants for shovel ready projects. We're not shovel ready on anything. So it'd be good to get that together.
One thought too, the building, like the public utility buildings, is that technically not under this commission, I guess, like the, I don't know, sewer plant or any of the water department stuff?
So I think all those were done as part of the whole sewer project,
Okay,
and, yeah,
I just, I didn't know.
because we did,
Like the thing on Paul Street, stuff like that, that I
Well,
went there,
right.
but I mean,
no, because I think.
I don't know if
a
that's, 'cause really
previous-
that's it's town owned, but it's, you know,
Right.
it's not free.
But a
it's-
few public works directors ago came to us and said, we're gonna be replacing this culvert on this road, and you guys should take a look at it and get going.
I don't know
on
about
it."
that,
I was
actually,
like,
but
No,
But they do have buildings, right? They have
They
the
do.
sewer
Well, the
plant,
pump house.
they have a couple.
so when they
reservoir-
built the new, couple of
Pump
new pump
houses.
houses, because we approved a lot of those in referendum or special town meetings, depending on the amount. Those are, you know, funding was approved, et cetera. It never went through us. It went through probably the water sewer
Yeah, I
department.
just, you know,
There is
because
a
technically they're,
department, yeah,
plus they're, you know, that you pay for that service, right? It's
Yes.
not, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's almost like a separate, it's a utility, right? It's not
Mhm.
really.
right. It is, because any improvements that are done to sewer and water
To pay for themselves.
gets, you know, obviously it's got to get approved by the townspeople, because it's money expended by the town, probably by a bond or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's paid back by the people
You
who use it. So it's spread out over how many
Yeah,
years
yeah.
your costs go up, whatever. Yeah. I was in a way surprised about not the animal shelter, but the roof, because I thought it was just the roof, but it's the structure, so that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's quite a project.
Yeah.
It sounds like any department could really ask us to take on a project.
Yeah, yeah,
If they're overwhelmed or
Yeah, yeah.
it's too big for them to handle.
And it is, they're overwhelmed, I think, in Public Works right now, but that doesn't mean it should be going. Because,
Yeah, because the dog pound, they were talking about it for years. I
Yeah.
mean, so, yeah.
well, they said it's been back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
I didn't even think it was
What
still
street
being
is your
used.
dog
I honestly didn't think it
Uh,
was used.
yeah.
before.
It's like Grass Commission.
Yeah, it's right across from Dawes.
Yeah,
Which I was always curious, like, again, not that this is trying to
I
commission.
thought it was,
Right.
I thought it was condemned. I didn't think we were using
I,
that.
I would think with Dawes or the Danbury Dog Pound, or even you get together with a community, more like a regional dog pound, like why does one town need their own? But again, that's not for this to decide.
we get assigned to it.
Yeah,
He
no,
was-
I get
he
it.
was
I get
thanking
it.
us
It's a
for-
further conversation.
He was thanking us for taking it on. You don't get to say no.
Yeah. No, again, I'm not saying that. It's just interesting. Over.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see.
And that's a
what they
decision for
have.
the first selectmen, the selectmen, I guess, because if the
Board
bids
of
come in
Selectmen.
at more than they're willing to spend, right? Or,
Right.
Yeah,
So yes, there's that. Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, because it has to go through the Board of Finance.
exactly. Yeah,
And then there would have to be, if it's over, I think up to $50,000, you can just go solicit quotes
yeah.
and then pick the best quote. But over that, there has to be an RFP and all that whole thing. And then if it's over, I can't remember what the amount is. If it's under $1 million, it goes like, even if it's $900,000, it goes to a special town meeting and whoever shows up votes on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will get the word out there, but, yeah. So that'd be it, I think.
Does all work on town property have to be prevailing wage?
Yes,
Yes.
if it's over a certain amount.
Okay.
And the amount is really small. The amount is like $100,000 or,
Oh, well.
Okay, so like if this was a $50,000 roof, then it necessarily wouldn't have to.
yeah, but I think it's gonna be.
Probably a million.
It's way more than
That's
that.
probably-
No, I understand, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, so $50,000
Yes.
anything could be.
Right. So, yes, because that's always a discussion, that comes up, especially with like, going through Public Works, if the town hires somebody to replace that door. They probably have a list of people that they use regularly to do
Well, it's
that.
like Park and Rec too, that they use the companies to mow. It's under the
Yeah.
threshold. Those
Yeah.
guys are not getting prevailing
Right,
wage.
is that
We-
is that a town ordinance or? is that
That's a state, I think it's a state thing, because we had put an RFP out to do the locker rooms. 20, 17, 18 maybe. And the prevailing wage part wasn't specific in the RFP. And we got a quote for under $1 million and we couldn't use it. 'Cause it didn't have prevailing wage. We had to go back. Actually, they kind of put it on pause for a little bit. All other projects got finished. But it has to be, and I think towns have to do it because the state says.
Yeah, like we were saying with the roof, then he's talking trusses, adding sprinklers, like that's
Yeah,
Well, I'm shocked there isn't sprinklers in that building already.
it's so old, but yeah.
When he said that, I was like. didn't
Well,
they have-
Park the trucks outside.
Getting away with
Yeah.
it, so.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's oil storage and I mean,
Yeah.
the flammables that are
Welding.
probably, and yeah, well, plus the
Maybe there's-
flammables, that are-
maybe it's-
there's gas cans in there for the.
I guess we'll see when we go, right? I don't know
We
how
will
it's
see
kind of,
when
I don't
we
know
go.
how it's kind of.
Yeah.
We will figure that out.
I've never actually been in that building. I want to
yeah,
see
I was,
outside.
the whole time he was talking, I was thinking it's like the covered storage. that's
Oh, no.
along the
Yeah,
driveway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cause that's pretty. old.
They park quite a few trucks in there. I think most of the trucks go in that garage, right? Plus they work on
Raiders in
them.
there,
They
yeah.
work on
Yeah.
them too. There, they have like a base shop base. I think.
When they don't send them to like. CVS
Alrighty,
or
so.
like-
Yeah.
How do you want?
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, so one last question, sorry.
Go ahead.
All the stuff, like for the new projects, all that has to come into this regular scheduled meetings. Like,
Yeah.
they can't send out emails, but okay, here are the schematics that we've been coming up with.
They can give us stuff to review. We can't discuss it back and forth in an email. We would have to look at it and
Here.
discuss it at a
Okay.
meeting.
Everything has to be discussed here.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Is that something that we want to do ahead of time? Like, just so that, have them send us like the schematics that we can.
I think he said he was gonna send us what they have,
Okay.
just so we can see,
Or
right?
send
Well,
Nancy.
I
Well,
asked-
that would be the agenda for the next. when
Yeah,
it's
that
up
would be
next
on the
meeting. So
agenda,
you would
yeah.
in theory get those ahead of time, hopefully more
Right.
than a day or a couple
Yeah.
hours before.
But he didn't say he was gonna send it out for the tour.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. For when he's ready to talk
Right.
about it.
He said they had a lot of information they could share with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
whatever
Yeah,
that.
I get excited
Yeah.
about new projects.
The HVAC one's already old.
Yeah.
Let's-
So,
Nancy had to deal with the schools and all the other bigger projects that you weren't.
and
seeing.
that's something we'll have to look at too, is how do we share information on the larger, what, and even these aren't that large, but for the school, that's the first one we ever did a shared drive. So everybody having access to a shared drive, because before that, it would be somebody would send out an email with a whole buttload of attachments. And sometimes the attachments were too big. If you had to put it
Yeah,
in a
you're right.
zip
It has
file,
to be
so
some
then you
sort
have
of-
to open it
yeah,
up.
yeah.
And so the shared drive made it so we could look at plans. Because
Yeah.
even with the school projects, we had started with, they had 2 sets of drawings printed. We had printed drawings for the police station. Who wants to
Yeah.
schlep all that stuff around?
Yeah,
We did a literal page turn to check everything out, but we can't be expected to always do all that. It needs to have people with, it needs to be more than just us looking.
yeah,
at all
especially when
that
you meet
stuff.
twice a month, you know what I mean?
And sometimes you have to do code compliance reviews and you hire somebody to do that. But finding out, figuring out a way to be able to share all those documents, not just the minutes and contracts, et cetera, so we're able to look at them, plans. Here's some schematics. Okay, now we need to change this wall, put it over here. Here's the new one. Being able to share all that with everyone easily is what we need to do.
And for efficiency, I don't know if this has ever been done or if it's something we can do, have like a sub itinerary for each project. So for Rick and the high school HVAC, have a itinerary that, we can just check through, like, start off with schedule updates, then invoices, then new business, old business. Try to go through it.
Yeah.
So
So for,
everybody,
right, for regular meetings, we started doing the bullets as a reminder to ourselves, especially with the school projects. We'd be like, oh, we have to, they'd have an OAC meeting and they'd be like, we got to talk about that at the next meeting, put it in a bullet. Because regular meetings, you can add or subtract from the agenda at any time. But sometimes we just need to be reminded the big things, budget, invoices, but sometimes there's like 3 change orders and we have to look at them. We have to remember to send the stuff out ahead of time so everybody can review it. Get something usually from the owner's rep, we'll get, yes, you should do that change order, or no, you shouldn't because it's in scope and they should have included that in their estimate. Have a discussion and, a kind of discussion where it doesn't take hours and hours and, be able to review things quickly, discuss it at the meeting and then approve or disapprove it. So having a way to share all that stuff, I think is going to be really important.
right.
But we've also done in the past kind of like subcommittees. And the subcommittees can't be can't have a quorum if you're going to get together and meet in person. But sometimes it's a way to have maybe 2 people or even 3 focus on this project and a couple people focus on that one. So then everybody comes to the meeting and it's not like all of us have to be really reading everything. And so you can bring in a little report of what project you're focusing on and we'll focus on another project, bring that information in. But that's something we can think about doing too. Inside some of the projects, we had little subcommittees that did, I don't know, a little research on something and then brought it back and then they didn't need to meet again because we then took care of it. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I-
Yeah, that sounds like you could.
Set
Yeah.
this up like.
What about if you assign somebody like, let's say Tom does it at the high school and then you do this or that,
Yeah.
and at least it's one head, one
Right, well,
person. Instead of you doing right now, getting all the information.
Well, Nancy's you're trying to kind of step back anyway. So
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
But
but
the
I mean,
chair
as an
kinda-
example, she's
yeah.
kind of doing it, but to share the load
Yes.
and then to have a report.
Yeah, and I've done that. I've assigned people to do that and they don't keep with it. But now we've got people that might be keeping up. So it would be a good thing to do.
And plus there's one more, right? Dan sent out something that they still want 1 or 2 more members.
So Dave Olson, who obviously didn't get in, he might be in Maine and not have internet. I replace him, replace me. And having like one person could be focusing on one project, like you said.
Right.
But then you could also have one other person working with you too. And hey, can you do this with me? Again, we can't make decisions outside of the meeting. can't have like everybody discussing stuff, but we can be reviewing things or requesting, like they're having a OAC meeting, high school meeting, and we need to know this. Make sure you discuss it at the OAC meeting and then get back to us. Just, the larger the project, the more of that happens. You get a lot more RFIs, you get a lot more stuff that's kind of not getting paid attention to when it should have. And that's why we need owners reps to be on projects, because we can't all be there.
Yeah.
We don't want to all be there. But we want someone to come to the meeting and give us all the information we need so we can make an informed decision. Yeah. Right.
Right, is the motion still there?
Yeah,
I
same.
need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. And before you run away.